Welcome to Core Knowledge Part 8, the Skills Strand, Teaching Materials. You will definitely need to access handouts for this session, so please make sure that you have Part 8 folder available to you, and that in that folder you see a number of different documents that are labeled both by title and by slide. You'll use the slide number to orient yourself to the materials you should be looking at. As always, please make sure you also have your notebook or a place to do quick writes. Let's jump right in. Please press pause and quick write. What skills do students need to know in order to be able to read independently? Thank you. I'm sure that you referenced many things that we learned in our last session about decoding, about segmenting, about the different things they need to be able to do in order to make automatic decisions as they read so that they can focus on comprehension. Our objective today is to become familiar with the teaching materials and structure from the core knowledge skills strand. This is a brass tacks section where you'll get to look at the materials you'll actually be looking at and using in your classroom. Core knowledge skills materials include a wide variety of resources. There are teacher guides, student workbooks, student decodable readers, big books for kindergarten and first grade, as well as a number of materials, including skills cards, blending picture cards, spelling cards, code sheets, and assessment and remediation guides, which can be enormously helpful with differentiation and making sure that you are driving your decisions in your classroom with data. We're going to take a look at a lot of these materials in depth in this session. First, the teacher guide. The teacher guides for the skills strand units provide teachers with a wealth of information. Each unit contains a standards alignment chart, a detailed introduction to the unit, a unit purpose, along with descriptions of the sections of the unit, detailed teacher lesson plans, student assessments, additional lessons, an appendix, and other resources. This is your go-to to determine day by day what students will be learning and doing with you. So we're going to pause at this point and answer, and you're going to need to reference your handouts at this point. The handout's labeled slide 89. Please take a look first at the alignment chart. Read over it and answer. What information do you get from the alignment chart? How does it support understanding of a unit? And could a teacher use this alignment chart to support their planning? Once you've done this work, please look at the introduction and answer the questions. How does the introduction support teacher planning and instruction? What are your key takeaways? And what are the critical sections within the introduction for you to consider as you think about teaching the unit? Remember, this is your first opportunity to really get familiar with a unit and how it might work for you. Please press play when you're ready to move on. Thank you. So one thing to highlight here is the focus on how the standards are taught over the course of the unit. Standards are addressed across every lesson, and they also provide teachers with a focus for that lesson. Please note the strong connection between reading and writing as well, particularly with regard to reading fluency work. Now let's take a look at the student readers and the big books. This is another key resource. The readers allow students to read a variety of texts that represent text with increasing complexity, rich content, diverse characters, and continuing storylines. For example, students will read about the same characters throughout the unit, such as Zach and Anne, rather than reading discrete stories where they're not building in complexity or engagement over time. As you can see from the text of Jack's Tale on the slide, stories also highlight the sounds and words that are being learned or reviewed by bolding or underlining them. This helps draw attention to these key words and helps remind students to apply the appropriate skill needed to properly sound out and pronounce the words. In kindergarten and first grade, teachers also use big books as an instructional resource. These big books are aligned with specific units. They are 100% decodable as well. Along with reading them, the big books provide opportunities for teachers to model reading, fluency, decoding, and directionality. So now we're going to pause and explore the student reader decodables by unit, so you can get familiar with what students are reading about across a year. It provides you with the names and overall themes of each reader, and each reader focuses on a key set of characters and information the students will follow and learn about over the course of each unit. Students will read a wide variety of text, both fiction and nonfiction, that are 100% decodable. Keep in mind that before Unit 6 in kindergarten, the teacher is using those decodable big books. And at the beginning of first grade, teachers are using a combination of big books and student readers. So please go to your handouts at this point. For slide 91, you'll see this document. What I want you to do is just jot down things that you notice or things that are interesting. Press play when you're ready to move on. Some of you may have noticed a few connections to the listening and learning strands, and that's exactly right. Students get a chance to read about fables, for example, which connects to some of the learning they are doing in the other strand. Now let's take a look at the student workbooks. We're not going to dig into these at this point, but I just want to draw your attention to a couple of things. This is not busy work. What is in the student workbooks is how you will, as a teacher, determine how students are doing day by day. The workbooks that accompany the core knowledge skill strand were designed to allow students to apply and practice phonics, grammar, reading, writing, and spelling, all these skills that they are developing and learning. Because lessons typically hit on multiple lesson types, for example, they hit on a combination of phonics, grammar, spelling, and writing, students are often practicing multiple skills within each lesson. Every effort was made in core knowledge to provide directions that are 100% decodable to students. This allows for greater independence and independent work. Note, teachers, that when directions are written along the side of the workbook page, this is an indicator that the teacher should be reading these directions out loud, as they are not decodable by students. Within each unit, students will receive 4 different types of lessons: phonics, grammar, spelling, and writing. Lessons often have multiple lesson types within a 60-minute lesson. There are 6 to 10 units per grade. Units run between 10 and 39 days in length. These 4 lesson types include phonics, grammar, spelling, and writing. And individual lessons are 60 minutes long. They're broken up into chunks of time, and they do blend both whole and small group work, as well as independent work, often with the workbooks and decodables. For example, in Unit 2 of first grade, there are 20 total lessons. Of these 20 lessons, 20 have phonics and reading component, while 7 have a spelling component, 10 have a grammar component, and 14 have a writing component. Additionally, all these lessons have an application component so students can practice what they are doing. Please note that core knowledge is highly structured, but it is not scripted. It's your job as a teacher to take this script and bring it to life. Just as an actor takes a script and makes it come alive for the audience, your job is to take these lessons and make them come alive for students. This means that planning and preparation is vitally important. We cannot approach these lessons as a step-by-step task list that you do. You must approach these lessons as something to be internalized so that you can then help students internalize the content. There's plenty of room for enhancement and differentiation. There are activities and optional assignments. Work with the remediation and assessment guides to ensure that students are making progress along the way, and make this work exciting for students. As we learned in the beginning of this session, it is vitally important that students are reading on grade level by the end of grade 2, and this charge belongs with you. All of the lessons are designed in a gradual release model. There's a warm-up, explicit instruction and modeling from the teacher. There's group practice, and then independent practice and application. Core knowledge also provides homework for students so that they can continue to reinforce the skills and perhaps work with families on these skills at home. Please remember that we are looking at data day by day. Assessment for and as learning, often called formative assessment, is the process of seeking and interpreting evidence for use by learners and their teachers to decide where learners are in their learning, where they need to go, and how best to get there. It's your job to analyze the mid and end of unit assessments and think about what students need to be able to do along the way. Analyze the lessons that are leading up to the assessment, thinking about what thinking and doing is introduced and being practiced, and what students need to practice. The workbooks, for example, provide a powerful way for you to check day by day on whether students are actually cementing the foundational skills they need to. Finally, identifying the daily assessments built into the lessons will help you understand what information is being given and what information you still might need to collect. Just a quick note on assessment is that it does need to happen daily, and it must align to where students are headed, the summative assessment of the unit. We can't wait for the mid and end of unit assessments to find out whether or not students have met the standards, and particularly whether or not they have met the foundational skills that the unit is teaching. We have to check in with them day by day. Please note that even the Common Core in the foundational skills introduction states that instruction should be differentiated. The point is to teach students what they need to learn and not what they already know, and to discern when particular children or activities warrant more or less attention. So finally, please submit your responses to the following questions on the discussion board. While this is an overview, we do strongly suggest you spend some time with your materials. Get to know them, dig in. All of them are available online. Please post any questions you might have on the discussion board so that your leaders can address those questions in your in-person training. We're very excited for you to really get your hands dirty with these materials, take a look at them, post questions and comments so that you are ready for day 1 of in-person training. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time for part 9 on intervention.